The last thing we need to do is to get our menu button to work. Right now the menu always shows and the button doesn't do anything. If we look at PS Framework Template.html, here's our menu button right here. We are setting ngClick to a function we haven't created yet. So let's create this function, menu button clicked. I'll go to the PS Framework controller and we'll add that function to the scope right here. And I'll paste in some code. So when the menu button is clicked, we want to take the isMenuVisible flag and set it to the opposite. So if it's open, it'll close. If it's closed, it'll open. Then we want to call a new function, which we'll add soon, called broadcastMenuState. Remember that this menu button is part of the framework, and we need to communicate back to our PS menu object somehow. And we'll do that by broadcasting on root scope. And then since this call is likely to change the scope, and since the scope is also changed on this line here, let's just call scope apply. We can't wrap this in scope apply because that does its own apply, which would throw an exception. So let's add broadcast menu state. I'll paste in the body. So we're simply going to call $root scope and we're going to broadcast on it. The message we'll send is PS menu show. So we're going to have to read this in our menu. And we're sending a very simple object where we're setting the show property to our scope.isMenuVisible. So any listener who cares if the menu is visible or not should listen to PS menu show. So let's go into our PS menu folder and we'll pull up the controller and we'll listen for that message. So we'll call the $on function and we'll look for our PS menu show message. And when our data comes in, we'll look at the show flag and we'll set $scope.showMenu to that flag. So let's put our scope.showMenu to use. First of all, let's make sure it gets initialized to true. And then we'll go to the template, psMenuTemplate.html, and we'll use the ng show directive. And the value is show menu. And one last thing we need to do is go to the PS framework controller. And we're using root scope. We need to make sure we inject this. And let's run it. I'll click on the button, and our menu disappears and comes back. So that's working. Let's see what happens if we close the menu and open up the window wider. Well, our menu doesn't appear, so we're going to need to fix that. Looking in PS Framework Controller, we're broadcasting out the menu state when the menu button is clicked, but we also want to broadcast out the state under a few other conditions. So I'll copy this function call, and if we look up a bit, we can see our resize handler here. On a resize, let's also broadcast out that message. Likewise, if we look up a little bit more, we can see that we're handling the PS menu item selected event. When the user selects a menu item, especially on a smartphone, we may want to hide the menu. That gets the menu out of the way immediately. So let's add the function call here as well. And above that, we'll also call checkWidth to make sure the flags are set properly for the screen size. So let's try it now. I can toggle the menu on and off. I'll leave it off, and as I resize, the menu shows up. And as I shrink down, the menu goes away. I'll show the menu and click locations, and the menu disappears. Now that behavior can be changed easily, but I think for a small smartphone that's fine. On a smartphone you would pull up the menu, select an item, and want to see it right away. So our basic menu is complete. In the next module, we'll add a lot of advanced features. We'll make it so that the menu can be shown horizontally as well as vertically, and we can toggle back and forth between those two states. Also, we'll add multiple levels to the menu so that you can drill down into items. And we'll also add a little bit of animation to the menu to make it more appealing.